joined us or you're still with us, this is still Enterprise Weekend, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's get talking with our main conversation for today. Governor Uloma Eno of Akwa Ibom State has officially defected from the People's Democratic Party (PDP) to the All Progressive Congress (APC). His decision was celebrated by Senate President Godswill Akpabio, who, through his wife Uloma Akpabio, welcomed Eno and praised the move as one that aligns with national development goals. Akpabio emphasized that real progress in Nigeria can only come through the ruling party at the center and assured the governor that his decision was divinely guided. During the defection event in Uyo, key figures from the state government, including the secretary to the state government, commissioners, and members of the House of Assembly, pledged their loyalty to Governor Eno and confirmed their defection to the APC. Speaker Udeme Otong and other stakeholders expressed full support, citing the governor's commitment to development over the past 2 years as a key reason for their backing. Local government chairmen, led by Algon Chairman Owemedemo Odo, also declared that support, applauding Eno for his inclusive leadership and the backing of local governance. Prominent political leaders and past lawmakers, including Senator Effiong Bob and Eta Enang, were in attendance to show solidarity and affirmed the governor's new political direction. I say have Emeka Madunagu. Thank you so very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, so let's start with what we have from our report. It stated there that the Senate President himself wasn't even around to welcome his brother, Uloma Eno, into the fold of the party. He was represented by the wife. As much as I do not know if he is on official assignment outside of the country, but knowing that this is a strategic move that he had been in control of, why do you think he was even absent in the first place? Do you think there is more than enough reason that should make him not be present?
Oh, well, it's interesting that he wasn't there, but well, the fact of the matter is that the defection has taken place. That's what's important. And Uloma Eno has gone with his own, with some of his people. But at the same time, it's not a complete defection because the people, 3 commissioners have resigned. You know, the letter by one of them, in Memobong, the commissioner for special duties, you know, that is circulating on social media. So what it tells you is that even they themselves don't totally believe in this defection thing. But you see, there's a game plan for this defection. Just make it look like the entire South is, you know, aligning against the North, and then certain places in the North, you know, are also going to, you know, the governors are going to defect. But you see, the Nigerian media is also not helping matters, and that is very worrisome. Because instead of the media holding the positions to account, the media is now standing like cheerleaders. The media are now like cheerleaders, you know, urging them on, you know, urging them, yeah, go ahead, you know. I mean, and these things cannot help our democracy because the media is not called the fourth estate of the realm for nothing. The media is a part of the governance structure, is a virile and a veritable governance structure. You know, but sadly, the Nigerian media has abdicated its role, and it has never been so bad. It has never been so bad. You never had it so bad in the First Republic, where the media now became cheerleaders. You know, you never had it so bad in the Second Republic. Yes, we know government-owned media, you know, are the ones, but the private media, the legacy media are the ones now. You know, even coining things, you know. I mean, the opposition is dead, the opposition is not alive. You know, I mean, what is all this? What do you even expect? What do you even call the opposition that you now say is dead? Is it until the opposition mobilizes people to start burning government buildings or to start, you know, doing unlawful things that you call it opposition? You just wonder. I mean, people defecting is not a new thing. But the main thing is this. It only shows that there's no principle in governance. They lack principle. They lack principle. You cannot go and take the votes of the people for one party and then you move to another party. To me, that's unprincipled and it's a worrisome thing. But the media that should hold these positions to account, the media is largely impoverished. So media houses are also struggling to pay salaries and to take care of their overheads and all that. So, of course, they now have to stand by and be cheering on the people who are wrecking the polity, and it's not good.
Yes, Emeka, as much as we would blame the media, let's take a look at the actors here. Eno is one of them. I do not know if I should call him the villain or he is the protagonist or whatever it is he should be called in this particular level. But do you think Eno is really playing to the gallery, or is he just being a coward who is not spineless, actually, to take on what is supposed to be the most important thing? The wife of the Senate president said that his decision was divinely orchestrated. And now that he has joined the APC, he is better connected to the federal government. So does that mean that all the while Eno has not been performing as the PDP governor of his state and therefore will start performing with the APC?
No, you heard what Eno himself said some time ago, that if you flew with one airline and you tried to come back with airline and you saw it wasn't possible, you change airline. So that underlines the politicians. And they're now saying something is divine. You see, these people, they try to play God. And that is where it gets so nauseating, so disgusting. They are saying it's divinely, what is divinely orchestrated? Is God a politician? Is God involved in your politics? Your dirty politics, God is not involved in it. Well, so nauseating. But the sad thing is that even religious leaders, they bought over religious leaders. Religious leaders are in their pocket. You've seen them. Some will criticize government by day, but by night they sneak to go and see politicians. So there is really nothing. There's really nothing. Many religious leaders are just, in their pockets. So when you now talk about being divinely orchestrated, by who? Which divinity are you talking about? So the reality is that if you talk about, that now is connected to the center is performing, show me one APC state today where you see real performance. Mention one APC state today where there's all they are talking about connection to the center, and yet you have unplanned roads, you have unplanned neighborhoods, you have crime, you have high unemployment. I mean, if the governors and local governments in the APC states were actually performing well, I'm telling you, unemployment would have gone down. Unemployment would have gone down. Crime would have gone down because all politics is local. But you just hear this connect to the center. What they even shows you is that this obnoxious centralization of the system has actually wrecked the polity. Beginning from when Major General J.T. Ironsi enacted Decree 34, of 1966. And that decree that took power from the states and centralized it in the federal government. Now, the counter coup of July the 29, 1966, the leaders said they were not happy with decentralization. They were not happy with it. So, but when they tasted power, they saw it was sweet. They didn't drop it. They didn't drop it. So what did they do? They continued with it. Gowon, who promised to just quickly organize elections and get out, remained there for 9 years and was blowing ground until he was thrown out. And you continued on and on and on and on. And the very people in power now who are the ones singing restructuring, nobody's talking about restructuring again. Everybody is talking about being connected to the center. But you are the same people telling us that the allocations to the states have tripled. But yet, where is the development?
You still need to connect to the center.
Where is the development? If you are connected, what is the meaning of being connected to the center? Then there should be no state governments there. let's just have a federal government so that we just know that we don't need states. Because as it were, states are useless. All they do is just manage to pay salaries for those still paying salaries, and just manage to do 1 or 2 roads that are overinflated, built at 4 billion, 4.5 billion, 5 billion per kilometer, which is 4 times the African average. So that's all there exists to do. Funnel money into their pockets, building phantom projects. So what do you need the state governments for? If your governance has to be effective because it's connected to the center, then you are an impostor. You ought not to be in government. As a matter of fact, you have ruled yourself to be a total nuisance in governance. And that's what matters. That is the thing. What does it mean of being connected to the center? Is it the federal government? For instance, basic education should not be in the purview of the federal government. You should not have a universal basic education commission. It should not exist. And you saw that the Tinubu administration tried, they looked in that direction. Why do we have a UBEC? Why should we have states pay matching grants? A UBEC produce its own grants, and then state governments cannot pay their matching grants. Why can't state governments? In fact, by the way, basic education should actually be at the level of the local governments. But you look at in the FCT. Okay, let's look at the FCT. That is actually federal capital territory, under the federal government, under the center. Since January, public primary schools, public health centers have been on strike since January. That is the center. That is the center. Go around the states and tell me how many federal roads are actually motorable. Go around. After this recent Mokwa flood in Niger State, the road that cut off was not a state road, it wasn't a local government road, it was a federal road. A bridge linking northern Nigeria and southern Nigeria cut off. That is the center. I can keep listening for you. You have the security services, the military, under the control of the center. But tell me whether they've been able to bring down insecurity. Tell me whether security has improved. Or is it power supply? The same states that President Bola Tinubu signed the Power Sector Amendment Act, that okay, states can actually oversee generation and distribution of power. They still want to be connected to the center. So in other words, that President Tinubu shouldn't have even signed that amendment, so that the federal government will continue to oversee the power sector. But thankfully, you have a state like Abia that has made good use of that amendment and gone into an agreement with, a power company that's into generation and distribution. And now other eastern states are calling on the company, please come and supply us. Go all over the place. So when you talk about all of these things, you say power at the center. I heard Umo that because the government has started the Calabar end of the Lagos-Calabar highway. So in other words, that it is extending to Akwa Ibom. But the Itu Odukpani highway is in a bad condition. I spent 6 hours on that road in January this year. From Itu Bridge to Odukpani before Calabar. It was a harrowing experience for me. But that's a federal road. The reconstruction is being funded by the federal government, by tax credit from NNPC Limited. That is the center. I can keep naming for you. Was it not judicial workers who went on strike the other day?
Yes.
They shut down a federal high court. Is that not the center? Even, do you know the most ridiculous? The seat of power in Nigeria, the presidential villa, now had to run away from the national grid, that they want to build a solar grid for 10 billion naira. So showing that they no longer have confidence in the national grid. Now that is the center you're talking of connecting to. Somebody was saying, look at Bua. Bua refinery is coming up. That is going to, is giving jobs to Akwa Ibomers. And I ask a question. You have 2 refineries in I think you have a refinery in Imo State, which is under APC, connected to the center. Why do you still have unemployed people in Imo State? The Boa refinery, how many people is it going to employ? Even the Dangote refinery in Lagos, how many people is he employing?
Very true.
How many people is he employing? How many jobs has he created? There's a limit to the number of jobs that can be created by any enterprise. So instead of state governments to think of these governors to think of how they can make their states better. Akwa Ibom is an oil producing state. You have oil, you have gas. Do you know Akwa Ibom, for instance, the former governor, the first governor of the First Republic, Victor Atta, he did a lot, build the airport, build a power station. But unfortunately, the Obasanjo government said they had to throw all the power they were generating into the national grid. But now that, okay, there's an amendment that says, okay, the power you generate, you can distribute it to your state. Why do you still need connection to the center to be able to you already generated? Why do you need connection to this? And I think they have about 2 power plants or so. I think Ibom plant and another plant. I'm not very sure about that, but you are generating power. I think about 100 megawatts or something. You are generating power that can service the state. And then you have about 12 or 22 government enterprises that have been shut down. You have Champion Breweries. You have Sunrise Ceramics. You have different business enterprises that would have generated jobs. Why not find buyers? Why not put up those businesses for? Look at look at some refineries. Breweries today that have been taken over by private investors. One of them, is now the biggest brewery chain in Africa. And then Champion Breweries is dead. Champion Breweries was one of the major breweries in Nigeria in the 70s, in the 80s. Today is dead.
Yes, but Emeka,
you can name it. Businesses.
Yes, very, very true, Emeka. But let's take a look at all of this defection thing, especially coming from the south of Nigeria. The southeast has been taken over. It's only Alex Oti of Abia State that I guess is remaining. Mba is a close ally of the president, and of course there's a rumor that he might defect anytime soon. But do you think all of this is a ploy by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to wage war against the northern part of Nigeria that are really bent on ousting the president? If that is the case, how much can that do? Is it even possible that if all the southern governors galvanize themselves towards ensuring that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu continues, do you think it's good enough to keep him on the seat?
No, there's a game plan which I hear is being worked out to generate 21 million votes for the president. And to make it, so that these defections will come in good time, for the plan, the alleged plan, to work out. But these people know that all this is just about showmanship. They know that the governors cannot generate the votes. Look at the governor of Delta State, Obodewori. He just had about 350,000 votes. But he said he would generate how many? Is it not 3 million votes for the president? Something he couldn't generate for himself in 2023. It's what he said he would generate for the president. So when you look at it, in the last election, there were allegations that there was massive rigging in the north. And of course, they usually use underage voters, who are voters cards that read ages that are much more, like 10, 20 years ahead of their current ages. Now, this has been a weapon in the north for so long. And INEC has refused to clean up the voter register and remove all these underage voters because they know them. They know them. But what do we have? So, in now trying to get governors to make it look like, yes, all the governors are there so that you can now activate your plan You know, you cannot activate the alleged plan to rig the 2027 election, to write results ahead. But it can't work. It can't work. It can't work. Because, look, it's just wishful thinking. There's one country, I think the president, is it not Togo, where the president brought up a strange thing that is parliamentarians that will now vote to decide in the presidential election, no longer the people, it's now parliamentarians. What kind of rubbish is that? But already, the people are saying no, that you cannot do that. That is why, of course, you see, is this kinds of things that you see that, you know, spawn coups around Africa. Because sitting leaders think that they're eternal. They think they should just sit down there forever. And then when they are going, they cannot hand over, you know, I mean, they cannot create a dynasty. What politics does it then? You now hear people in their deceit that democracy cannot work in Africa. Who said? The places where it's working, is it not human beings like you and I, with blood in their veins? Is it not the same human beings who are running democracy? But because it's inherent in our nature to be deceitful, to be dishonest, not to play by the rules. So that is why you hear people will tell you, oh, it's only prayers that can resolve insecurity. It's only prayers that can do this. It's only prayers that can do this. Hypocrisy. Because we don't want to think. We don't want to play by the rules. We don't want to do the right things. And that is where the problem is.
Yes, Emeka. Yes, and talking about playing by the rules and some African leaders hoping to build a dynasty so they can remain forever. Do you think that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is getting over himself? Because he seemed to believe that he is an architect, a master, a numero uno when it comes to politics and strategy in Nigeria. Do you think that he might really not know that something is possible that might be different from what he wishes for? Then secondly, Emeka, the second question is, do you see anything in, of course, we cannot predict the future, but looking at history, in 1997-1998, we had General Sani Abacha, who equally, like our president currently, bought over everyone, had defection, mass defections to, of course, desire that he transitions from military to civilian. We had the 1 million man march in Abuja. Who does the cap feed advertising all over the country? Do you think we might have a repeat of what happened at those era? And what do you see?
What I do know is this: I cannot pretend to be God, you know, to know the future. But like they say, morning shows the day. If Tinubu was confident in his handling of the country, he wouldn't need to have to get people to endorse him. He wouldn't need to do that, because to me, all that is just showmanship, eye service. He says he has performed well. If you fix the country, of course, you don't need to even talk about the election. The people will just overwhelmingly support you. But where you are, you know, your song keeps changing. You say there should be pains, then there will be gains. Your worst days are over, and all of that. And at the end of the day, the worst days are looking even longer for the people. The people cannot feed, they cannot pay rent, they can't send their children to school. They can't go to hospital, you know. So they have to engage in self-medication. And so that's why you see all of these things happening. Abacha knew that his trying to become president was immoral. It was evil. It was illegal. But what happened? The West also somehow encouraged him, because if they put sanctions on Nigeria, but these sanctions actually were affecting the ordinary people. They were not touching Abacha and his gang of looters. They were not touching them. And that's the sad thing. You see the commander of the African Command, General Langley, you know, is becoming a nuisance in Africa. A nuisance. He was the one the other day that held a press conference and was talking rubbish that Traore, Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso had been using the gold reserves of the country, to prop up his regime. But a journalist told him, a journalist corrected him. And what do you mean by that? That the money from the gold in the gold in Burkina Faso was actually being used for the people. Oh, he said, okay, oh well, that was my view. The same Langley has now declared support for Yadema in Togo, who is trying to stay there forever. That is part of the problem we have. The West has become a nuisance. That is why they are doing all their best to say, oh, no, African nations should not get close to Russia. They should not get close to China. Because they don't want Africans to think for themselves. They want to impose leaders on Africa. They want to keep Africa in debt slavery. They want to keep Africa backward. They want Africa to remain the dark continent, they call it.
So do you think the West are in support of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's stay in office? Is there anything that cites to that?
I do know that at least the United Kingdom and parts of Europe are, yes, from their body language. I mean, you saw the other day, Chatham House, an NGO in the UK, saying that Tinubu should not try to strengthen the Naira, that it will ruin his economic reform. What is the business of Chatham House? I prefer to call it Chatterbox. Because there's nothing positive that those guys have brought to Nigeria. They are just meddlesome interlopers. And I think they should learn to shut their mouths. Because they are just meddlesome interlopers. So you now have a situation where, like Abacha, Tinubu is now proceeding in that direction. But as far as I'm concerned, you don't need that. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. It shows that he's jittery. He's afraid. Yes, he shows he's jittery. He shows he's afraid. I go back to when Emefiele was the governor of Central Bank. And he came down hard on people who were promoting cryptocurrency. And what the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at that time tell him? He said, approach issues with knowledge. Don't approach issues with fear. Little did we know that why Emefiele was running after NSAS promoters, running after crypto promoters. The Emefiele was looting treasury. He was committing abominable acts. That is what you say in Nigeria. That Emefiele was building 753 duplexes with stolen money. So that is why for me, I feel that there's no need for it. Work hard at fixing the country. Work hard at reducing our debt burden, because the debt burden is unsustainable. Find a way to stop borrowing. Find a way to cut the cost of governance. It is, how do you explain 226 million for a street light? How do you explain the constituency project? How do you explain it? Over 200 million for a borehole. How do you explain all of these things? How do you explain it? No, you can't burn the candle at both ends. You must find a way to cut the cost of governance. Instead, Tinubu has been involved in increasing the number of ministries, increasing the number of MDAs, setting up new universities without any appropriation, taking over institutions from states without any appropriation, without any public hearing, just to satisfy populists again, just setting up universities here and there that are not being funded. The other day, the House of Reps held a public hearing, and they discovered that one institution somewhere in the north, they looked at their overheads, ran into so much, and now.
Are you still there, Emeka? All right, I think we're having a little bit of a glitch there from Emeka's end. And I just hope that he returns back. And of course, we were still discussing the defection of Eno, the governor of Akwa Ibom State, to the APC, citing his reasons connecting to the center. And of course, he's been told that now that he is connected to the center, that he should expect development at all levels in the state, and that is subnational, that should be independent, that should be, competing even with the nation state itself on development. Been said that they needed to connect to the center just for them to make progress in their state. And of course, we were discussing this with respect to, the rumor that the southern part of Nigeria are all coming together against the northern part of the country, to ensure that there is more than enough support for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu come 2027 from the northern part of Nigeria. And of course, Emeka was talking about the rumor that the election has been written down with 21 million. And one would wonder why. Of course, it was debated at the National Assembly that Nigerians who refuse to vote should be incarcerated and all of that. So if you add one and one together or connect the dots, you will discover, ladies and gentlemen, that most of the things that we say that are rumors could possibly be facts. Well, that's about the time we have for today. I'd love to say thank you to Emeka. Sad we had to let him go because of the really difficult network we had. But I would love to say thank you all the same. But most importantly, we'd love to say thank you to you, ladies and gentlemen, for making this a date. We truly do appreciate you. Please do well to visit us if you may. You can always find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV 7. I am Henry Igubike. Thank you for watching. We'll see you. Bye-bye.